All right, I'm standing here with Jillian from Candia, and you have something on your mind that you're really upset about. Tell me about it.
I do. In my home state of Rhode Island, in Cranston, they put up a prayer banner praying for God to bless all the students of Cranston.
In a public school?
In a public school, publicly funded. A 16-year-old girl, atheist, decided to lobby to have it taken down because she felt it was inappropriate to have in a public school. And not only did she receive death threats, threats of rape, threats of physical violence, they eventually decided that, hey, maybe we shouldn't use public funds to support God in our schools, our public schools. So they decided, wait, let's appeal. Let's make t-shirts, let's freak out, have meetings. We're gonna repeal this decision. ACLU says, hey, it's gonna cost the taxpayers $170,000. Most of the town says, let's go for it. Let's fight for our right to have a banner that has a prayer on it in our public school. Thank goodness, I'm not gonna thank God, thank goodness, they decided not to. They decided not to throw away more taxpayer money, and they just took down the banner. See, when I heard the story, I assumed that in the beginning of the controversy, they would have taken it down right away, argued about it, either put it back up, I don't know why they would do that, or rightfully keeping it back down. No, they've had it all the time, but it just got taken down, so small victory.
Yeah, and this was I think it was battled out in the press pretty heavily.
It really wasn't, and I mean, this poor girl, she's 16, people are telling her, you're too young to know what it means to be an atheist. Pretty sure being an atheist is a lot simpler than being a Christian and believing in talking snakes and food falling from the sky and people living in whales. That's just my opinion. I don't know if 24 is old enough to be an atheist.
Well, I think that actually did happen once.
Yeah.
Someone did get swallowed by a whale and spewed back out.
Did they live there for 3 days?
In the 19th century, I think it happened. But anyway.
But did he live there for 3 days? Did he get...
Oh, yeah.
Turning people into salt. I mean, children believe that. But you need to be 16 to not believe in God. So I don't know if I'm old enough to be considered a real atheist, only 24. Hopefully I am. I think the whole thing is totally ridiculous. If you want to put up prayer banners, put them up in your private school, put them up in your churches, put them up wherever you want.
Well, the frustrating thing about this to me is that people don't understand. They say it's not a big deal, and yes, they're right, a banner is not a big deal. Forcing everybody else to pay for a banner is a big deal. That's violence.
I mean, the whole thing, and people, the worst part, the sickening part to me is that people were willing. People showed up at the meeting and were like, yes, let's pay, let's steal $170,000 from this town that is, and if you know Rhode Island at all, Cranston is not a wealthy town. They're just pretty destitute as far as towns around go. It's not like it's Newport where everyone's rich and lives in nice houses and it costs $10 just to get over the bridge to get there.
Yeah.
It's Cranston. You don't have $170,000. If you do, why don't you put that in a school and not make everyone there such a freaking idiot? Just saying. And I hate when people say it's not a big deal. This girl's getting death threats. She has to have cops at her house. Even local florists won't deliver flowers to her.
And she's not allowed to defend herself because it's Rhode Island.
No, of course. And that's the worst part is for me, that it's Rhode Island. It's the state I grew up in, the state that I love very much. All my friends I've ever met in Rhode Island have been atheists. They've all been very liberty-minded people. And this sounds like something that would happen in the South. If you said, oh, in Alabama, they put up a prayer banner and one girl wanted it taken down and everyone freaked out, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's Alabama. There's only idiots and inbreds and whatever live there. This isn't New England. This is
That's
our
pretty
backyard.
bigoted.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's the popular opinion. If it happened in the South, I wouldn't be that surprised if it happened below the Bible Belt. But it didn't. It happened right in our backyard. And people won't even deliver flowers to this girl, and that is really sad.
Yeah, that's right. You said 4 different florists refused to deliver flowers to her.
They refused.
When was the last time 4 florists refused to deliver flowers to the latest cop who killed somebody, right?
Of course not. But this girl, asked for a banner to be taken down from a public school. Surely she deserves no flowers. You really got her there. Finally one florist, I wish I remembered the name off the top of my head, but they did agree to deliver to her, and they basically said, well, we don't really care who we deliver flowers to. You pay us, we'll bring the flowers.
What do you think? I don't know if I've never heard of this kind of thing happening in New Hampshire, but what do you think is, in terms of being involved at the town level, how can you do that to kind of keep this kind of thing from happening here?
I think just keep your eye on what the school is doing. That prayer banner was there for a few years before this girl lobbied to get it taken down, which is one thing that people used against her. they would say, oh, well, she walked past it for 2 years, didn't have a problem with it, as if people don't suddenly either notice or get incensed enough to start change.
Well, right, I mean, did you know that when people are 14, 15, and 16, they change a little bit? Have you ever heard about that, right?
Yeah, it's almost like when you're that age, you're young and impressionable, and you maybe don't want to start like a huge revolt at school that could get you ostracized and get people to not deliver flowers to your houses.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think the best thing is, I mean, I had no idea a prayer banner was up in a school in Cranston, or I would have been down there freaking out about it. As I'm sure other people would have been as well. I think the best thing is just be aware of what's going on at your school. Even if you don't have kids, you're still paying for that school. You should still know what's going on there.
Well, now that you're in New Hampshire, do you have any kind of sense of maybe which towns in New Hampshire are most, they're most liberty-oriented, most likely to not impose a tax on someone to fund a banner they don't like?
I'm actually not sure. I've only lived in New Hampshire for about 2 years. I moved to Candia, so I wouldn't have to actually deal with other people. You know anything about Candia? It's pretty much you're in the middle of the woods.
He said he didn't want you being here without him.
When's he coming back?
I'm not a fan of how many times I've gotten stopped by Candia police. But other than that, it's pretty nice because you live in the woods, don't have to deal with other people. So unfortunately, I don't know Hampshire too well. Obviously, I'm still really involved in what's going on in Rhode Island.
Well, in Candia, at least they will release you after arresting you for running a video camera.
Yeah. Or for not having your inspection sticker or your registration.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway, Jillian, I really appreciate your time, and it's 2 years late, but welcome to New Hampshire.
Anytime.